On Wednesday, October 30th, 2024, Jenkins LTS 2.479.1 was released. On today's show, we're going to be taking a look at all the changes, and there were many in that release. My name is Darren Pope. I'm a developer advocate with CloudBees, and on today's show, I have with me Mark Waite. Mark, how are you doing?
Just great, Darren. How are you doing?
Good. A little bit slow getting in there. I have too many browsers open, and my macros didn't work. So I was trying to load up a different browser. Don't load up different browsers at the same time. Anyway, 479.1 is
Yeah, this is a big one. This is a big one.
So if people aren't familiar with the process of weeklies and LTSs, before we get into the normal spiel about it, this big change started how many weeks ago? 6 weeks, 7 weeks ago?
Actually, so if you're talking about when the change actually started, it was like 9 months ago.
Oh, that's true.
But the change arriving in Jenkins Weekly was about 8 or 10 weeks ago.
Right.
And we've been since then cranking through multiple iterations. It went through multiple phases of Weekly arriving with first Java 17, then Jakarta EE8, then finally Jakarta EE9. And yeah, so this has been a multi-week process to get here.
So for people that aren't familiar with what the LTS process is and the weekly process is, why don't you explain it to us real quick?
Sure. So Jenkins long-term support releases are generated every 12 weeks. At the start of an LTS release cycle, we choose a weekly release as a baseline. We choose that baseline and then give ourselves some time to stabilize and backport to it so that those backported fixes come out as the .1 release. So 2.479.1 is weekly 2.479 plus some backports. And those backports are there to assure that things are stable. Then 4 weeks after 2.479.1, we'll release 2.479.2 with some additional changes. Usually they're relatively minor. And then 4 weeks later, 479.3, then we choose a new baseline and do the same thing again with the next LTS line, 2.4 whatever it will be.
And this has been going on now for almost 20 years.
Right, exactly. We've
Not
been
the-
doing this for a long time.
I wonder how long the actual 4-week cadence has been going on. I don't know
Yeah,
the full history of that.
we could certainly dig it out. The concept of LTS is not as old as Jenkins, not as mature as Jenkins is, but it's pretty close, right? We've been
Right.
doing LTS for quite a while.
Let's just get into it, because with this release, we've got a lot to talk about.
We
So
do.
if you've not taken a look at the change logs, if you've never taken a look before, go to jenkins.io. In my case, I've got a hamburger here. You may see it already listed across because I'm zoomed in right now. Go to download, and you'll see stable and weekly releases. We're going to focus on the stable right now. And we have the change log. Mark, do you want me to stay dark mode or do you want me to go to light mode?
Either is fine, whatever
Okay.
you prefer.
I didn't know which you would prefer. So here we go. 479.1, released October 30th. There's been a few issues. 18 people have said no big deal. 5 people have said, I've had to roll back.
Yeah, and part of that is not hiding. It's clearly stated in one of the very first items under major enhancement, right? So I'd say let's go there first, Darren.
Okay.
Let's look down there and talk about what might cause people to say, "Ooh, I had to roll back."
Requiring Java 17 or higher.
That's a first. That okay. If you try to run this Jenkins release with Java 11, it will not work. So that might cause people to say, "Oh, I rolled back." Then
That was me today, by the way.
well, and it's not an uncommon thing, right? Hey, my Java version is stable for a long time. It's time the Jenkins project stopped supporting Java 11 in weekly about 10 weeks ago, 8 or 10, 12 weeks ago. And now this is LTS doing the same thing.
I have hardware that doesn't support Java 17.
And there are some users like that where that's, of course, on the other side, we've got people who really like it because Java 17 is the first version that supports their hardware. So yeah, it's that way.
This next one, though, I think is even bigger.
Right, right. The next one has a lot more to it, and it's a crucial thing, right? So first phrase there, upgrade Spring framework. Second phrase, upgrade Spring security. The Spring project announced back in March of 2023 that August 31st of 2024 would be the end of life for Spring Security 5 and Spring Framework 5. And so they said, we'll stop doing publicly available security fixes August 31. And so the Jenkins project correctly said, we've got to get on to Spring Security 6. So that's what's happening here. We're moving from Spring Security 5 to Spring Security 6. But in order to do that, we had to move from Java EE8 to Jakarta EE9, which required that we also had to go to Java 17. And those changes are substantial, in particular because of what this thing says for users of the LDAP plugin. Okay, Spring Security is a key part of how we do authorization and authentication inside Jenkins, right? It's part of that thing. The LDAP plugin embeds components of Spring Security in it. So we have to tell you, you must upgrade simultaneously with the Jenkins version, the LDAP plugin at the same time. So if you're an LDAP plugin user, you cannot use Jenkins itself to perform that upgrade of the plugin.
And we'll look at the details around that upgrade in a little
Right.
bit. When we take a look at the
Exactly.
upgrade guide. But then also, if you're using a third-party container, Tomcat, whatever,
Right?
you've also got to make sure that you've upgraded whatever servlet container you're using that also runs EE9.
Exactly.
not
Right.
8.
Because if you were using Tomcat or you were using Wildfly, an alternate servlet container, that servlet container must be now support Jakarta EE9. And that usually means you've got to change major version of the servlet container. Yeah, now part of me says in my heart of hearts, if you're using one of those alternate containers, you ought to reconsider and switch to the Jenkins standard container. We do a lot of work to be sure that the Jenkins default container works well. And we have some testing of the alternate containers, but it's not nearly as deep as the Jenkins primary container.
Which leads us to the next point, Jetty 10 to Jetty 12.
Right. Again, this was one of those where the Jetty project gives us a way to do Jakarta EE9 by going to Jetty 12. But that means it's a major upgrade from Jetty 10 to Jetty 12.
So what we're saying now is Jenkins is completely future-proof by what we did.
Well, Jenkins has
Not.
well,
Not.
Jenkins has resolved a bunch of things by making a major change, and we've got a very nice compatibility layer that should preserve things for users.
Java X to Jakarta.
Right.
Just go read that. That's all you need
Right.
to know.
Java X to Jakarta. What a great story that one tells. The challenges of copyright enforcement and people using trademarks in ways we wish they wouldn't. Yep.
Hey, this is not a political show or a legal show. So let's
Right,
move on.
except that Mark has his fixation on politics and legals. Yep.
Okay, here we go. Anyway, next point, allow all builds to be removed by the build discarder. Who would have thought that a build discarder wasn't removing all the builds? But
Yeah.
now it does.
Nice fix. Yep. Nice improvement.
And then and that's considered major. And because it is major, because maybe you got used to things not deleting,
Right.
and now they are going to delete.
That's
so if
correct.
things start magically disappearing out from underneath, it's
Check
because it's
your
actually
build discarder.
because it's probably doing what it's supposed to have been doing all along.
Right. Exactly.
Sorry, whoever fixed that. I apologize for being a little straightforward there. It's been out. Let's put it this way. It's 2.479.1. It's been a few years. So it could be there. All right. And then removing a Windows escape hatch.
Yeah,
That's fine.
This one is just I'm not aware of anybody who actually depended on it. So I don't expect anybody will be grumbling about it, but we had to do this because when we upgraded from Jetty 10 to Jetty 12, this particular escape hatch was no longer viable.
Major bug fix. You couldn't download TarGZs in Firefox. That's a
Right.
random thing.
Right, exactly. It's like, oh, really? Okay, fun.
Okay, lots of enhancements. One that is not, actually, it's down at the bottom. Let me call it out first.
Okay.
Remove idle executors or executors from build executor widget.
Uh-huh.
I am still trying to get used to seeing that. Now, I don't have something set up that I wanted to have set up. There's also some other usability changes that's in the build widget or the build history widget that changes that my muscle memory is not there yet.
Right. Well, if you're willing to navigate to ci.jenkins.io,
I can do that.
or to weekly. Yeah, ci.jenkins.io is probably a good choice.
Yeah, because it got
Because
upgraded yesterday, and
It
I was
did.
like,
It's running current. So,
Yep.
and now you may have to
I'm just going
log
to go
in.
to. Nope, I don't need to.
Oh, okay. All right.
I'll just go here
Oh, good.
because this is one I'm familiar with. Now, used to, you would click on the drop down right beside the build number, and you get the nice drop of all the choices. Well, now it's all the way over here to the right.
Right.
So basically, you can't interact with anything across the bar until it's over here, which makes complete and logical total sense, and my fingers can't do it.
Right, it's a muscle memory thing.
Yeah.
Agreed. And Jan has done a really great job of reworking the build history widget. This thing needed modernization desperately, and he's done a very, very nice job on it. Yep.
Okay. I wanted to call that one out because
Good.
that's the one that has frustrated me the most in usage so far.
Well, so and let's go back to that one and look a little further because the build executor widget. Let's see. Show the agents. There we go. This one here. And now on ci.jenkins.io because we don't. Well, no, actually, we do have some static agents. So could you just for fun, Darren, search for S390 on this page?
I'll just search for S390.
Right.
If I can learn how to type S390. Yes.
There
it
we
is.
go. Okay. Notice that one. It shows 0 of 1,
Right.
but it's not showing you a slot, an entry for the 0.
Right. Because used to you would have something right below it. that
Exactly.
was-
And if you had 15 executors defined, you would see a list of a lot of empty. That's now gone. So that's part of this whole story. Great.
Okay. Good. We did see that. Okay. So I'll stop whining now. Probably not. I'll probably whine about a few more things. I don't know which ones we need to take a look at here because it was a lot of UI fixes, general UI fixes, a lot of general UI fixes. But everything else seems to be, how can I say this, not that exciting in comparison to the other things we were just talking about.
And that's
Right.
why maybe should we go to the upgrade guide? Let's talk about
Let's do
the
that.
upgrade guide first, and then we can come back to talk about UI improvements because
Okay.
the UI improvements, people will certainly notice them. They will see
Right.
them and, hey, that's a nice improvement. But the upgrade guide talks more about some of the very specific things that need to be thought about.
Right. So here we are. We've already talked about it. It requires Java 17. Now we say 17, but should they use 21 instead?
And I have been using 21 for a very long time, and I think 21 is a great choice. So for me, I'm using 21. I highly recommend it. But if you prefer to stay with Java 17, that's fine as well. They're both fully supported. The crucial thing here is that 11 is not supported. And if you're running, for instance, a container image based on Docker that has 11 in it, we're not updating those anymore. So you have reached the end of updates. We will do no more updates for Java 11 images.
Let me restate the 17 just to make it more blunt. If you don't like doing a lot of work, if you can get to 21, that's going to buy you almost 4 years
Right.
instead of 17, which will be going away in 2 years. Round
That-
numbers.
That good round numbers. Yeah, your numbers I think are a little off, but that's round numbers is good enough. You buy yourself more time by choosing 21 now rather than 17. And 21's a long-term support release. It's very popular. Coming September of 2025, we'll see the release of Java 25. So by then, Java 21 won't even be that new.
Right. And it's already at its 5th official revision. So it's
Right. We've had 5 quarters of patch releases for it.
to make the math easier, that's over a year. We're okay.
That is over a year, yes.
5/4. That's trying to figure it out. Okay, anyway, we talked about if your application build still requires 8 or 11. Well, that means your agent is going to be using a different JVM than what your build is going to be using, and that's completely okay and actually best practice.
Right. That's very healthy. Right. We've got documentation on the site. You've done videos that show how to do this. It's not a problem to run agents and the controller with Java 21 or 17 and still build with Java 7 or Java 8 or Java 11, whatever Java version you want.
Right. So anyway, upgrade to Java 17. If you can get to 21, just go ahead and go to 21.
Right, exactly.
Just do it. Let's move down to the next, and this goes through lots of other things too.
Well, okay, so before you go,
okay, go ahead.
well, we can either come back to this environment injector thing, or we can
Let's do it now. Since we're
talk
here.
to it now.
Yeah.
So if you're using environment injector and you get this message that it discusses here, it provides a nice detailed set of steps. Here's how you can work around it. It's highlighting that environment injector is doing something rather dark. and your life would be much better if you find ways to dodge using this particular thing.
So you're
This
saying
particular feature of environment injector. The plugin itself as a whole, not a problem, but this particular feature creates some complications.
I'd still say if you don't need environment injector, just get rid of it.
Right. Fair point.
Get rid of it. And then for inbound agents, because this has changed, you've got to add this ads open thing that came in when was that? 9 actually, I think. 9 or 10.
Yeah. So
No,
for us, first came
been
in
a long
11.
time.
First
11,
came in
okay.
11. But right, it's this exact thing is a side effect of environment injector. Yep.
Okay. And then here we are, the upgrading Spring. Now, here's the key thing to this. We'll talk to the LDAP in a minute. You don't have to deal with Spring Security or Spring Framework. You do have to deal with a servlet container if you're using a separate one, right? So those things just come along. But this is the LDAP thing that we were talking about a few minutes
Right.
ago. And my monitor just went out. Give me just a second, please. And I'll get it resynced. You still see it? I don't, which is
Okay.
really annoying.
That's hard.
Yeah. So you have to upgrade it to this version, or I think, is there one past that now? I've
There
lost
is now
count.
one past that, but you need at least that
At
version.
least this version.
Yep.
So how do you do that? Well, you can't do it like typically you would go through the process, back up everything. That's always step 0, back up everything.
Right.
Then you would upgrade all the plugins,
Yep.
shut down, upgrade your, however you have Jenkins installed, whether it's through Yum Update or whatever it is. Bring it back up, and then upgrade plugins again.
Correct.
Yeah, you can't do that with LDAP this time.
Right.
That-
Oh,
that process
this,
is not gonna
this
fall
other plugin noted here, the CAS plugin. Those
Yep.
two plugins require these extra steps. You have to take that extra step. So Darren, describe that for them.
Yeah.
This is really different, and we know it's different, and it's that's why we spent the time to document it.
Yep. So this is, go back to what I was just explaining. Always back up, upgrade all the plugins as best as you can. Get it happy with no plugins needing upgraded, and then stop the service. That's where we get into here. Normally you would stop the service, and then, or in the case you normally wouldn't stop the service, you could just do, well, you do a
Restart.
stop the service, you would upgrade the JVM, or excuse me, upgrade Jenkins, however you normally upgrade it, and then start the service. But now what you have to do is you've stopped the service, you've upgraded Jenkins, but then you've got to go and download the LDAP or the CAS plugin, put them where they belong,
Right.
and then you can start.
Correct.
And then everything goes fine. What you don't want to do is you don't want to bring Jenkins back up until you've brought this plugin and dropped it inside Jenkins Home plugins.
Right. And please, when it says the name to use and the correct ownership and permissions, those are all three important things.
Yep.
Really, you don't want to do yourself harm by inadvertently giving it the wrong name, inadvertently giving it the wrong ownership or the wrong permissions. Be sure you get those right for your own long-term setup. This is a unique step. We know it is. That's why it's carefully documented.
And unfortunately, it's got to be manual. There's
Right.
nothing magical that we can do about this. The key part in that, going back to the ownership and permissions, if you've suited up to root and you've CD'd over to Jenkins Home plugins, and then you just say wget, give me the plugin, it's going to be owned by root. Stop.
Right.
Stop. At that point, just do an ls. What is my ownership? Oh, okay. Just change the ownership of the plugin right there, and
Right.
then you'll be golden from that point forward.
Exactly. And it's exactly that kind of thing that worries me, because if they forget and leave it as owned by root, they may have later surprises and wonder why those later
Yeah.
surprises happened.
Yep. Just take your time. Follow
Right.
these instructions.
It-
The upgrade
it's-
guide is here for a reason.
Absolutely.
Okay. We're talking about removing the Windows escape hatch.
Yeah, that one is, I seriously don't think anyone's using that escape hatch. If they are, they're going to have to live without it.
Yep. And then the increase in minimum required remoting version. This is fairly normal for a .1.
Right. And we hope that this doesn't affect anyone in particular, because if you're running that old of a version of remoting, it says you've got another problem. You need to systematically upgrade remoting to recent versions. This version is what I think 6 months or more old, so it's
Yeah.
not even a particularly recent version.
But you can break glass.
Yes,
Just don't.
You can. That's
just
correct.
don't.
You can.
All right. That's the full upgrade guide.
Right. Yep.
So the key part is if you are using the LDAP or CAS plugin, this is the big thing. This is the everything. Well, besides not upgrading your JVM,
Right.
this is the full stop.
Correct.
Like it just won't come up. Period.
That's right.
So-
And hey, Jenkins controllers typically matter a bunch to the businesses that run them, right?
Yeah.
So, and if you're using LDAP, it usually means you care deeply about authentication to the thing. Be sure that you use the upgrade guide's steps.
Big deal. Okay, that's it. Now, fairly short upgrade guide for something this big. Mm-hmm. So that's actually pretty good.
It
we,
is.
we have the twist of LDAP and CAS, but everything else is fairly normal.
Right.
From,
Well, and
from a .1 perspective.
And what that really says is the compatibility layer has done a great job of preparing itself and defending so that you can use your old plugins with this new release.
Okay. We'll go back to the enhancements and bugs now. I don't know if we want to spend a whole lot of time on it. We can let people read these. Was there anything else big that you wanted to call out?
Well, so can you take us back to ci.jenkins.io, because there are some
Yep.
things in the new executor widget that I like. Okay, so if I remember right, if you go to the BOM job the bill of materials job that we're on, and there, if I remember right, if you'll look at on the builds panel that we see there, there's an expandable thing in the top right-hand corner. That thing shows a nice graph. Okay, this is the old build trend, but it's also got a console log link on each of the lines and a time since column to give a hint how long it's been since this build was run. So for me, those were, hey, that's a nice enhancement, right? If I need to see the console log, I'm one click away. Right. And I get a hint as to how long it's been since I last ran this thing.
Okay. And you can also sort it,
Right.
which is, I'm not sure why I would do that, but I guess I could.
yeah.
Well, I could sort, build number makes sense, but the other one's, okay.
Well, and sometimes I'll sort on status, actually, as a way to see,
Fair enough.
show me the things that timed out, show me the things that passed, just group them together.
Right. Okay. Anything about the more actions? That's just Atom feeds. Those have been there for a while.
Those
so
have been there, yeah. That's no big shock there.
Anything interesting about the icons here? Those are all still the same icons, right?
I think so, and I've been using badges for a while with the new build history widget, and it works quite reasonably.
Okay. Anything else to see here?
That's what I wanted to be sure people saw.
Okay. So lots of stuff about build history, views, liking jobs. I can't remember that notice component thing. I haven't.
Oh, that's
tried
that's a fun one. Let's
Okay.
do it on your fresh Jenkins install.
Okay. Good. I'm glad I had it up. There we go.
Okay, so if we create
Create a new view.
yeah, create a new view,
Right.
and it's a nice. So create a job in this. Yeah, create a new view. Let's get a new view.
Okay. So just create a new view first, right?
Right.
All right. So do that, and trying to see where.
Oops. Create. No. So back up. So dashboard.
I need to have something here to begin with.
Oh, right. That may be it. So create a job. Let's have something that's ready to go. Good.
Now we can do it.
Right.
So now if I do this,
Just call it something. Right.
and I'm going to make it
Make it a list view. Right.
and
Save it.
just save it doing
Because
nothing.
it should be empty. Right. And so
Right.
the presentation is a lot more attractive now to say, look, this specifically has no jobs associated with it.
Right. Okay. A little clearer, a little more human friendly, if you will.
Exactly. Yep.
Improve some handshake errors. Okay, that's good. Oh, this is one thing. Using WebSocket in the inbound agent command line. So previous, it would show the, what was the previous name? I've already forgotten. Anyway, it would show, it wouldn't show the, you would copy, it would give you the, here, let's just do it. Because
Yeah,
that's easy enough to do.
Right.
So let me create a new agent.
Right.
And I have some really creative names. Mm-hmm. And then I am going to just create it as a launch agent by connecting it to the controller. That's what we
Right.
wanted. So if I click on save and I go here, then you get this line,
Right.
right? Used to, it wouldn't say WebSocket.
And okay, so now, why? Tell more about why WebSocket is so valuable in this case to a typical user.
Because you're not having to open up ports.
Exactly. That's the magic here. Is okay. Before this, I would paste that thing onto some terminal window, and it would say failed. And then, oh, what do I have to do? Oh, I've got to configure this other thing. Open a port here. And if I'm on a container, it's like, oh, and I've got to publish the port, and WebSocket lets me avoid all that.
No. So you can still do TCP. That's what I was trying to remember. But by default, TCP is disabled because
Right.
we want it disabled for security reasons.
Right.
Now, it's fine if you want to open it up, but then it's your choice. It's like, used to be the default, it was always open. And listening on port 50,000.
Right.
But now that's just no longer listening by default, which is good. And that's been a while, by the way. But that was still showing up in this how to connect. It was
Correct.
still thinking as a 50,000, but no, it's really WebSocket. So
Right. And now it
This is all
says,
cleaned up.
look, we want this to be able to work out of the box for you. You just copy this, paste it, and you get an agent. Yep.
correct. Okay, let's see here. Oh, add end of life dates. Let's talk about end of life.
Okay. Yeah.
Because obviously Jenkins is not end of life,
Nope.
but Alpine, it's hard to think Ubuntu 24.04 is already coming up to end of life.
Well, what's happened there is an announced end of life date. It's actually not terribly soon, but we just had a case where people said, oh, look, my Ubuntu 20.04 is now warning me about end of life because it will end of life in 6 months or less.
Right.
And so this thing is looking forward to the day, which is what I think probably 3 or more years from now,
Yeah,
when
that's still
Ubuntu
on.
24 will actually be end of life.
So they're getting ahead of the game instead
Yeah,
of saying
that's the idea, right? Alpine 320 and Ubuntu 24 both have very long lives ahead of them. Fedora 40 less so. I think Fedora 40 for Fedora versions
Yeah.
live for like 12 months, maybe 18.
yeah, they're short.
It's
In comparison,
actually
they're short.
Right.
Okay. So let's talk about this one. Most people don't even know what stapler is.
Right.
If you've ever heard of struts, it's, forgive me, everybody, it's effectively stapler. It's
Okay.
it is a servlet framework, right? So just for comparison's sake. Now it includes compression on the response.
Well, so what's happened is it's moved.
Moved
Who's
up.
responsible for doing it, right?
Right.
So yeah, this is a fun story of Jenkins history, right? Jenkins was created at a time when the web servers and these frameworks didn't do a great job with compression. So we implemented our own compression, and we had our own compression handler. What do you know? Java's gotten a lot better about doing compression, and these web frameworks have gotten a lot better. So Jenkins has stopped worrying about compression and handed off the responsibility to other components that are already included in Jenkins.
That already do compression.
Exactly, and they're already tuned for it, and they'll spend a lot more energy maintaining that than we do.
Right. And then the bugs, let me double check any of these bugs made any sense. I think these were all just deep.
Yeah, well, several of them are part of are related to the compatibility layer,
Right.
And that's good. Others are just general bug fixes that we've included.
Okay. So let's go up. So this was everything that was at the point in 479 weekly.
Right.
But then the backports that we're talking about to where we got to .1.
Yes.
These were the big things. Let's talk about this major bug fix.
Uh-huh.
Because this one, I've seen many people go, what's going on? I can't get my plugins to update. Fill in the
Right.
blank.
Well, and this one tells a bigger story, right? The Jenkins project provides a service called Update Center. Update Center is hosted at updates.jenkins.io. The Jenkins Update Center provides the list of plugins and their supported versions of Jenkins Core. So every Jenkins controller wants to ask, hey, give me the list of plugins and versions. However, that's not the only name we've ever used for the Update Center. Previously, it was called updates.jenkins-ci.org. And previously, it was going over HTTP protocol, not HTTPS.
That is not a misspelling, by the way, if you're looking
Right.
at that.
There's not a typographical error there. That is not that's not just a missing S on the protocol. It was doing unsecured, and it's still available from that unsecured location, HTTP. Now, years ago, we switched Jenkins, but users were not required to make that switch. We had some automated upgrade code that was not always run correctly, and this actually fixes a bug that lets the upgrade code run. Now, users who are not using updates.jenkins.io as their update center should switch. Really, stop using the old one, but we'll continue providing that old URL, and in fact, we're preparing by end of December 2024 to switch how we're delivering the update center to be better geographically distributed. We're very grateful to Cloudflare for hosting that.
Okay. So in case things look weird, because this is going to be something magic under the hood, that if you're upgrading from 2.76, do the math.
Right, that's a long...
406 weeks ago?
Right, that's a
What's the
long
math?
time ago. So 50 weeks in a year, so that's 8 years ago, right?
8 years, yeah. So if you're still running a version that's in that 8-year window, under the hood, it's going to swap out the .org to the .io.
Well, and
Right.
if you see on your installation that you're still using the .org URL, please switch it yourself.
Yeah. Your life will be better
It will. It's just
in the
simpler.
long term.
Yep.
Okay. And then a couple of other small bug fixes, some ASM updates, and this do safe restart. I'm assuming this backport was related to, because there was changes to stapler request, and now there's a stapler request 2, correct?
Right. So
And there needed to be a call it a compatibility shim thrown in. for
correct.
this.
Exactly. So there several of these backported bug fixes are in fact to cover minor things that the compatibility layer in 2.479 weekly did not have, that we discovered after 2.479 weekly, and we wanted to be sure that they were updated.
Right. So that's pretty much it, isn't it?
Yeah. Okay.
Scarily enough.
Wait a sec. There's a dark corner here that we have to
Oh,
touch.
okay. We'll go right ahead.
Okay, so ASM, so just for
Go ahead.
fun. The ASM update that's mentioned there, ASM is a Java bytecode manipulation library. We would have rather not included it at all. But it turned out we discovered one of our dependencies was surprising us by bundling it for us. And so to safeguard our users, we've intentionally put it back in until we can get it fixed out of that dependency. It was for me a fun exercise. Special thanks to Basil Crow and others who did the investigation to find that thing, detect, oh, we're inadvertently bundling an old version. Let's be sure we at least bundle the current version.
And that's it, right?
That's
This,
it.
there, here's let's sort of if we can recap it here in a small way. If you're still running Java 11, you're not anymore.
Right.
If you're going to upgrade, you're not anymore. Magical things will happen once you upgrade to the new version, assuming you've upgraded to Java 17 or preferably Java 21.
Right.
And then you get some nice new UI features. You will probably see if you're still running Java 11 and just upgrading to either Java 17 or Java 21, you're probably going to see performance changes just in the nature of Java changing.
And Damien Duportal of the Jenkins infrastructure team, our infra officer, said that he has seen measurable performance improvements from 11 to 17. So that's a real thing. That is a real thing in a production use of Jenkins. He's seen real improvements. So
And by-
11 to 17 is a good thing.
And by production use, you mean ci.jenkins.io.
That's the kind of place that he runs production, right? He's one of the ci.jenkins.io admins.
Right.
Yep.
So that's what we're recommending. And then everything else should just work for you in general. And if it doesn't, go back over to the release notes. We'll show them again. And report what's going on.
Yep.
Now, make sure that you actually put in, if there is a bug, first off, look and see if it's one of those bugs apply to you. If not, open up a real bug. Don't just
Right.
say Jenkins 123 because
Yeah,
that
please.
won't help any
Yep.
at all. My monitor went out again. Give me just a second. Okay. So is that all we need to cover with this? I think we're pretty close.
I feel pretty good about what we've covered.
Okay. So the next release. Okay, we're in holiday season now. This is the start of the official holiday season for the rest of the year.
Getting near.
Well, no, the getting near is okay. So as we're doing this live, it's Halloween. It's October 31st. It released yesterday. So 4 weeks for yesterday's release, at least from a U.S. perspective, is the day before Thanksgiving,
Right?
which means typically we would do the show on the day after release. Now,
Which
Mark, I'm
we
down if you
won't,
want to.
because-
Okay, all right.
No, I'm not doing a show on Thanksgiving because my
But we can bring our
grandkids will
food.
be here. My grandkids will be here. There's no way I'm giving up my grandkid time in order to do a broadcast. Sorry.
Not going to happen. Okay, so we'll probably do that the Monday after is what I'm
Right.
feeling like.
Exactly.
So, and that'll be .2, and cross our fingers. And based on all the work that we've done, everything should be pretty quiet.
We look forward to .2 not being a high drama thing. We really do.
And let's go ahead and talk about .3 since we're here. Now, if you did the math, .3 would come out in December. If you actually did the real math, it would come out on December 25th, Christmas Day. So that's not going to happen.
No.
So
No,
what's
that's
happening for the .3 is it's actually being pushed out 2 weeks. So the release in November, the day before Thanksgiving in the U.S., is the last shipping release, cross our fingers,
not of this calendar
of
year.
this calendar year.
Yep.
And then we'll come back in 25. I just got used to saying 24. Now I'm going to 25. So now's a good time to go ahead and start upgrading or plan. If you're one of the companies that enjoys doing your upgrades over the holiday season, this is the upside for you this year. The last release is going to be that last week of November.
Right.
That means you got a couple of weeks if you're going to do it during that Christmas week or the week of New Year's. You got planning time. It's not like, great, we just released the last one for the year. It was December 19th. Okay, you probably wouldn't take that one anyway.
Right. You've got time to assess it, get it in there.
And getting a .2 in is actually pretty good. We're not saying don't take the .1. Don't take that wrong.
No.
But, how many people actually take a .1?
I do every
We do.
time I deliver one. But
Exactly.
if you're no matter what, .1 looks good.
Yep.
.2 I think is going to look even better. .3 will look even better yet. Go for it.
So anyway, the dates are important this time, though, because they just happen to fall on
Right.
every major, or almost every major day.
Right.
I don't think that's happened since I've been doing this
Yeah.
with you, Mark. So, okay. So we'll be back in 4 weeks plus a couple of days, whatever that Monday is after. Is that December? Because Thanksgiving is late this year. It's
Right.
like the last week. So it may be that first Monday in December. I can't remember what the actual date is. Actually, I'll look it up because I have this thing called a calendar.
Yeah, December 2.
December 2nd. Yep,
Yep.
sure enough. And actually, I already have it scheduled, amazingly.
Okay.
Well, I don't have it scheduled, but I have it on my calendar. So that's when we're doing it. So we'll be back then, same time. By the way, apologies to Europe. You already changed from summertime to normal time. U.S. people, we do it this weekend. So then all the meetings go back into sync next week. Everybody says amen. Okay. Because that's, at least it was only 1 week on this cycle.
Yep.
Going into it, this cycle was what, 3 weeks difference? That was bad.
Yeah.
We're not a political show. We'll just stop there.
I don't know. You're going to get me started, and I'm going to ask people to tell their representatives to stop messing with my clocks. But okay, that's not a political show. We don't get to say stop messing with clocks, please.
Let me propose something. Like it will even take effect. And I've talked about this in other places. Just make UTC the only time.
Yeah, the problem is then I have to persuade the people in my life who don't care about clocks that they should care about clocks, and that'd be really difficult. The people who don't care about clocks in my world outnumber me in a big way.
I didn't say it was a good proposal, but it is a proposal. Because at least UTC is UTC.
Right, it's invariant. It really is.
Yep. So anyway, thanks everybody. We will talk to you again in 4-ish weeks. And for everybody in the States, enjoy Halloween today and enjoy your Thanksgiving. Both Mark and I will be eating probably way too much and having too much fun with our families. So
Right.
you do the same. So thanks everybody, and we will talk to you again soon.